Lightyear. This movie had two sins. One, they didn't cast Tim Allen, and two, everything else. Lightyear was incredibly bland and dull. This movie was supposed to be a celebration of my generation of kids movies from the 90s, but instead it just ended up being a modern 2022 Pixar movie. This movie was terrible, and I never felt like I was watching Buzz Lightyear. Also, as far as representation goes, Disney have been criticized for excluding LGBTQ representation in their animated movies over the last few years, and honestly, of all the movies they made, this is the movie where they would have been justified in excluding the representation because it would have fit the whole pitch for this movie. That being that this was the movie that Andy saw as a kid in the 90s that made him a fan of Buzz Lightyear and made him want to buy the toy. So this movie should have been a send-off to kids action movies in the 90s. And in 90s kids programming, you wouldn't get a gay couple, let alone a gay couple making out. You wouldn't get modern 2022 actors such as Taika Waititi and Chris Evans voicing the characters, and you wouldn't tell a modern, half-assed interstellar plotline for kids. If this movie was true to the kinds of kids movies we would have seen in the 90s, then it would have made a big action movie with big 90s stars like Tim Allen doing the voice of Buzz. And it very much would play out like the Buzz Lightyear video game from Toy Story 2 or the popular animated TV show on Disney+. These are the concepts and executions that we should have gotten with this movie. But no, instead we get Interstellar Light. A lot of people have speculated that Disney had a random spaceman script and they just dusted it off, changed the main character's name to Buzz Lightyear, and threw in some of his catchphrases to finalize the deceit. And I have to agree. Honestly, a much better Lightyear movie is the opening of Toy Story 2. Go and watch that and you will get a much better and much more creative solo Lightyear movie with a ballsy ending. Also, I didn't expect this going in, but this movie falls into the woke category for me, because despite this being the movie that made Andy a Buzz Lightyear fan, I'm surprised that he didn't end up being a Commander Hawthorne fan, because there is nothing that Buzz does in this movie that would make anyone a fan of him. He doesn't get to do anything in this movie. Everything he does results in failure and the side characters, including Taika Waititi, having to come in and rescue him. I wouldn't mind that sometimes, but it literally happens every time. The movie constantly tries to undermine him to the point that it even says he was the evil Emperor Zurg all along. That felt awfully similar to when The Last Jedi was trying to frame Luke Skywalker as the villain and an old hermit. The movie doesn't even put Buzz in the spotlight by the end. Instead, the movie constantly dedicates itself to Commander Hawthorne. I mean, why? We came to see Buzz Lightyear. What the hell is this nonsense? They should have pulled a J.J. Abrams Star Trek where Kirk was applauded, celebrated, and then was rewarded with his own crew and ship in the end. We should have gotten some kind of honor like that from Star Command for Buzz. But no, his superior gets honored and Buzz is just there. But see, it's called Lightyear, so it's all about him. Isn't Buzz great? Andy loved Buzz after this. That honestly just felt like a last-minute tagline that they tacked onto the movie to try and trick us into buying tickets. But they didn't fool anyone. This movie is disgusting. I thought The Last Jedi was behind us, but a lot of the stink from that movie found its way here. And they tried to repeat what that movie did, but in a much more sly and devious way. Representation is not a bad thing, but when Hollywood makes such bad examples, I can see why people would not be happy to hear about representation in future movies, because these very same people that criticize it have never had a problem with it before. The only reason they have a problem with it now is because Hollywood are not doing it well, and in turn are actually doing the very people they are trying to represent a disservice and a lot of damage, which maybe was Hollywood's plan all along. I don't know. I could go on about this piece of shit of a movie, but I'll end it with this. The movie spectacularly bombed both in theaters and on streaming. And Disney, how many more brands are they going to mess up? First Star Wars and then Disney and now Pixar. They really need to reevaluate their strategy because they are running out of franchises to screw up. Well, there is one more franchise they could screw up, and it's time to talk about that right now.